Hello and welcome to the podcast. My name's James, your host, and I'm with Adi, who's an Indian chap living in Sweden. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, close enough.
Do you want to describe where you've come from and like all the various places you've lived? Your history is quite confusing to me.
Yeah.
And I know you, everyone else might find it hard to understand it.
Yeah, definitely. My name is Aditya, but everybody calls me Adi, and that works fine. I'm originally from India, but I was born in the UK. I grew up in the US, moved back to India, and I've been in Sweden for close to 6 years now, this summer.
Great. And how are you finding it so far?
No, I really like it. I really like Sweden. I have minimal to no complaints so far.
Perfect.
It's a really nice country to live in. People are nice. The winters are the one thing I don't particularly enjoy, but I'm sure we'll talk about it. Yeah.
Perfect. So on section 1, about getting there. So I guess for you, it's about getting to Sweden. So I guess more about how you originally actually finished your high school or your degree in India and then came over.
Yeah.
So what was it you looked for? Why Sweden? Why did you choose the university you've gone to?
Yeah. So I finished my bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering in India, in Bangalore. And I was interested in doing my master's degree in aeronautics because I wanted to study aerodynamics. And I wanted to come to Europe. So those were kind of my prerequisites. When I started doing some research, I had basically 4 options in mainland Europe. I didn't want to go to the UK because of high tuition fees and job insecurity because of the visa stuff related to getting to the UK and staying in the UK. So 4 options: KTH in Stockholm, Linköping University in Linköping, Politecnico di Milano in Milan, and TU Delft in the Netherlands. So those were my 4 options. I applied to KTH and Linköping in Sweden. Delft was a bit too expensive because they have tuition fees and it was comparable to the US, so it didn't really make much sense. I didn't want to go to Italy, wasn't particularly keen on going to Italy. Applied to the 2 universities in Sweden, got a scholarship at Linköping, and thought, why not? Had a few friends already studying at Linköping, and they had good things to say. So
it's not something I've ever heard of. Delft, you hear of with former student and engineering universities. It's a good one, like TU Munich.
Yeah.
And Stockholm, because it's the capital city.
Yeah.
You never really heard of Linköping?
No, but in the aeronautics world, it's actually quite famous because that's where Saab is from. So Saab fighter jets, and basically just Saab as a company, their headquarters is in Linköping. So Linköping was, and I think still is, the aviation capital of Sweden. So,
interesting fact about Sweden.
Yeah.
So how was the process of actually, now you've found a university you want to go to, you've got the offer. You talk about like the UK being difficult for visas. So why was that? Did you do much research into that extensively, or did you just go, oh no, it seems difficult to do, look somewhere else?
No, so I had some friends that went to the UK, and so in the UK you need to get sponsored to get a job, to pay for your visa basically, and it's not something companies typically want to do. Another factor was the fact that master's degrees in the UK are only a year long. That actually at the time wasn't recognized by the Indian government if I ever wanted to go back as a master's degree. So they think, apparently, and it probably doesn't matter, but then they say that master's degree needs to be at least 2 years long for them to recognize it. So that also then kind of ruled it out.
So I guess in India I've not got a master's degree because mine was 1 year.
Probably not. Not according to the kind of legal classification.
But I've got a certificate saying master's. So.
It doesn't matter. I don't think in hindsight it probably wouldn't have mattered so much. But it was just more the uncertainty of finding a job after.
It's the risk you didn't want to have, right?
Yeah.
That's fair enough. So you chose Linköping as a university, you chose your course. What was the next step? Did you have to apply for a visa to Europe or to Sweden specifically? Or?
Yeah. So to study in Sweden, you need at least from a non-European country, non-EU country, you need a residence permit at the time. So it's something you need to apply for, and you basically, as soon as you get your admission letter from the university, you send that in, this residence permit application, to the migrations agency. Gets the ball rolling really. They have a checklist on their website, and you start checking things off. I think the most annoying thing about that whole process was having to go to New Delhi, which is like a 2-hour flight for me from home, just for a 5-minute appointment to go get my fingerprints and picture taken for my application, and then fly back another 2 hours, and then you're done.
And the cost of it.
Yeah, exactly. The cost and time and all of that.
And where's home for you? Sorry, I'll highlight that. So what part of India are you from?
So my family is from Bangalore in India. So that's kind of in the southern triangle, the middle part.
Okay.
Best weather and best people. Also very humble.
Maybe some bias. That's interesting. And when I went to America for a visa, it's a similar thing, but obviously the UK is significantly smaller than India, but I took a train rather than a plane. It's still 2 hours. I spent that before and stayed at a friend's house, but you have to. You're spending more time queuing than your appointment. It's like going to a theme park.
Yeah.
When you queue for a ride, and you go on there, and then the ride lasts 90 seconds, and you get off, and you go, "Ooh, I queued for 2 hours for 90 seconds."
Except it's not as much fun.
Yeah, well, depends on the theme park. But that's interesting. And then, so after all that process is done and you're being accepted, what was next? Did you have to find accommodation, or did the university help you with that, or did they offer you something? What did you have to do for that?
So that was actually another cool thing with Linköping, was that they, at the time, again, it's changed now, were giving international students fixed accommodation for 2 years in a student dorm. KTH in Stockholm didn't do that. So they were offering, I think, like a 6-month or 8-month contract for international students to just get them set up, and then basically ask them to find places by themselves. So that was a really cool thing. So no kind of stress there. And the student housing in Linköping was amazing because it is predominantly a student town. So all the students are living in the same area, and it's like a huge corridor room dorm kind of thing. You have your own room, you have your own bathroom, but then you share a kitchen and living space.
Yep.
Really cool. Had a lot of fun. Yeah, there wasn't much to it. So accommodation was sorted by uni. And as soon as basically this whole trip to Delhi and back and the visa process was done, I just had to sit at home and wait for them to ship this residence permit card home, because you can't, at least non-EU citizens can't enter Sweden without a residence permit card with their passport. So they will deport you at the gate if you don't have that as you're crossing the border.
Yeah, because you talked to me, but I managed to get in with the paper of my approval because it was getting made in Sweden.
No, but that's because your passport allows you to visit Sweden without a visa. So that's what the catch is.
That's lucky.
So the power of your passport matters, yeah.
Yeah, I was just getting worse, I think, in the UK since we made a good decision. Bad decision. A very bad decision in my eyes, anyway, because it's made my life much harder here. But no, it's interesting. So, what was your? I guess before you left, did you have any anxiety about moving or going? Were you going to Obviously, it's quite far away from your family, and what were you thinking before you moved?
Oddly, I didn't really have any anxiety. I was actually really excited because it was a new country, and I was moving to study something I really liked. So brand new opportunities, and I was more excited than anything. But it was an interesting time. It was a big change moving to Sweden, and
this weather was different.
People are different.
Language significantly different.
Exactly. But I think it helped moving as a student, because then you're surrounded by a lot of other lost students. So
that's one thing I'm struggling with now, is when you move as an adult, everyone's got their friendship groups and everyone's settled in, and you're just this new entity, like a drop in the ocean relatively. Yeah. Whereas at least if you're students, the tap's been turned on and loads of people flooded into the same basin, and they're all mixing in together. Whereas I'm like a bit of rain on the river. Yeah. It's not as easy to integrate. No, that's good. That ends the kind of first section of everybody here, so thank you for that.
Cool.
Welcome to the second part of the podcast, all about being there. So, about your life in Sweden, where you live, and how you found it, your first impressions, etc. So, I guess for me, the first question is, what was your first impression? You get off the plane.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think?
So I landed in Stockholm, in Arlanda Airport, and I arrived in Sweden in August. So it's a really nice time. Yeah, it's a really nice time to be in Sweden. And the first thing that took me by surprise was just the length of the day. Because I landed, I think, in the afternoon or late morning, and then had to take a train to Linköping, which is about 3 hours, and then figure out my way to get to uni, pick up my keys, go back to my dorm, and then go grocery shopping and set up my room and things like that. And then it was like 10 p.m. and it's still bright outside, and I just couldn't understand what was going on.
So it was a sleep mask with your first investments?
Yeah, because I was jet lagged, so India is what, 3.5 hours ahead? Yeah.
3.5 hours? Do you have that kind of time zones?
Yeah.
I just thought it was hour increments, but...
No, so during summertime, it's 3.5 hours ahead. And
I guess, is it several time zones across India, or was it all one time zone?
It's just one time zone. Yeah, because I was jet lagged and I was tired and sleepy, and then it's 10 o'clock and I thought I'd just go to sleep, but then it's so bright outside. So that was just like, what's going on? And I think the second biggest thing that really hit me was just the lack of people around.
Yeah.
Just that it's so not as dense.
It's scarce, right?
Yeah.
I find that from England, that's not as dense populated as, I guess, some parts of India.
Yeah.
Maybe London is on par.
Yeah, London's busy.
But everywhere outside of London is quite chill.
Yeah.
Similar to Gothenburg, I guess, some cities, but Linköping, I guess, is tiny.
Yeah, and especially because when I arrived, it was still kind of vacation time for students. So there weren't students either. So typically you'd go out for like a run at 8 in the morning and not see a single person for over like 15-20 minutes, and then you just get back. And it's just...
When you moved, did other students move at the same time as you, or were you just by yourself for a little bit?
I moved by myself, but there were like 2 other people in my corridor. A corridor has around 8 rooms, but there were like 2 people there already. So they helped me settle in.
Were they Swedish, or were they all other people from other parts of the world?
No, so there was one guy from India and there was one Swede, and they helped me settle in.
Nice. It's quite useful to have someone there to...
Yeah.
Like you with me. When I first moved to Sweden, I had to give me a checklist of things I needed to do, which I took my time doing.
No, but that's the thing. It's like when I first got here and went to like a grocery store to buy bread, eggs, and milk, I didn't know what I was looking at because it's a foreign language. You don't understand what's what, and it's like I think
they're 3 quite simple things to buy based on how they look.
Yeah.
Even then, the bread is different.
The bread is, and the milk as well. It's like there's so many of these cartons that you don't really
you can't
know.
see inside, right?
Yeah. You don't know what's what.
Come out with yogurt, man.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I bought another kind of milk that they call film milk or something like that, but it's a bit thicker. And
like film milk, like is it unpasteurized or something?
I don't know. I don't know what it is. I never bought it.
That's good to know. So I guess another thing is, so you're now in Sweden. You're now in Linköping. What was it like day to day? What was social life like? Obviously, university it's a bit different. Maybe since you moved to Gothenburg and Linköping, what was the biggest change going from student life in a new country to working life in a new country?
Yeah. So I lived in Linköping for 1.5 years and then moved to Gothenburg to do my master thesis. But then again, I moved with 4 friends, and we shared a flat together, which was really nice because then I was just with them all the time, and we made some friends through work again and just hung out. So we kind of had our own circle. But as soon as they left, then I was a bit lost. So I had to...
After the master thesis?
Yeah. So then I had to find friends through interests or hobbies, basically. And I think that's still the case now.
That's a good point. With hobbies, have you noticed there's a big difference between what you did back home in India compared to what is available here in Sweden?
Kind of. But roughly, I'd say they've been the same. So I enjoy basketball, for example. So I had a basketball group in India, and I kind of have a basketball group here now as well. I enjoy tinkering with cars and bikes and just doing DIY stuff. So I have some friends that like to do that, and we spend some time helping each other fix each other's cars and mess around with nuts and bolts and spanners.
Just slamming things,
No.
Lots of camber.
It's all good fun.
It's all legal.
But one hobby I have picked up since I moved to Sweden was mountain biking. Something I always wanted to do, but then didn't really exist as much in India. But that's been a new hobby I found in Sweden. I've made quite a few friends through that now as well.
Nice. And did you just get a bike and do it, or did you rent a bike? How did you first get into that? If it was something new for you?
I always wanted to do it, so I just basically bought a bike and asked if I could join some people I knew that were going mountain biking. I really sucked, and I probably still do suck, but it was a lot of fun.
It's all about turning up, though.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, as long as you smile. And I think with mountain biking, because you've got different runs, kind of like skiing, I guess, the people who are really good can just go and do the harder routes. And even on some of the routes, like some of the trails, there's options to veer off and make it a bit more technical or difficult and still have like a blue run or a red run or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It ends up being, you can cater to all abilities. It's kind of like why I like climbing. You can have someone who's, I don't know, an Olympic champion and someone who's a complete novice, but they're on the same wall.
Yeah.
It's all about being social.
Yeah, completely. Another big one was music for me. Playing music and going to gigs. I have a small group for that as well with similar music taste, which is...
It's your prog rock taste, right?
Yeah. Prog rock and metal as well. So I have a little group that...
it's quite popular here in Sweden, metal.
It is.
And Metallica are playing it, I think.
They are. Also
Rammstein last year.
Yes. Also another kind of factor in me wanting to come to Sweden was...
metal scene?
The metal scene, yeah.
Is it not so big in India?
It's huge in India. But...
I guess India's huge. So there's
no,
surely something popular.
No, but comparatively, I think it's even bigger than Sweden. Like, just the number of things happening. But it's just that a lot of really cool bands started out from here in Sweden. So it's kind of like...
The Hives are my favourite band. Started out from Sweden.
Yeah.
But that's
okay.
I think that's all about being here, unless you've got anything more to say about, like, I don't know, how you found banking, or like when you first moved, did you have to spend your money from India, or like, because for me, I had to keep using my English bank account until recently. That was 6 months, right? So, what was it like for you?
No, that's exactly it. So that's something I recommend everybody moving to, not just Sweden but any foreign countries, to get like a Forex card from home for the first few months when they set up. Because especially in Sweden, it can take quite a while to get things set up.
Yeah.
So it's a long process in Sweden, but I think having a Forex card from your home country will really, really help. Because I've had so many friends that moved with me and ended up not being able to pay things because the cards wouldn't work, and especially...
It's like a prepaid travel card, basically, you kind of need.
Yeah, or even just like credit or debit cards from like back home. Because banks say that they're like international cards, but they don't really work.
Do you have to let your bank know you're moving abroad first as well, when you came?
Typically, yeah, you need to kind of enable international banking, especially because it's so far away from like India to Europe. So there were a few things to do there, but it wasn't too bad. Get a Forex card and then you're good to go.
And what was your biggest kind of change culturally between Sweden and India that you noticed? Did you was there something you just thought, this just seems odd? It can be good or bad. It's just different. It's a whole paradigm shift for you.
Food.
Interesting.
And food culture in general. It's just like the options to eat out are so limited.
In Sweden?
Yeah, in Sweden. It's just something that
burgers everywhere.
Yeah, it's like it's either burgers, pizza, or like the same. Yeah, and the same like Thai stuff. There's not so much street food. There's not so many other options. I mean, of course, there's a lot of options in the city, but I think it's still very limited, and just...
I did notice that in neighbourhoods, like where I live now, there's nothing.
Exactly.
Whereas at least growing up where I'm from, and I've lived all over the country in England, every kind of neighborhood had like something, like a little shop even, and
Yeah.
like some takeaway food,
Yeah, exactly.
pub, somewhere to socialize and kind of congregate. Whereas I've noticed here, it's very much clustered.
Yep.
You go into the city, you go into Bokkaplan or something, or Lindholmen, you have to go to the bigger areas in order to socialize.
Which I find quite odd because this is supposed to be the second biggest city in Sweden, and it still feels a bit small.
But even in Stockholm, if you go outside of the kind of centre section, I was thinking the north part of it, near Harbour Park.
Mm-hmm.
And around there was not much other than residential areas or hotels. We had to go, 10-minute walk, 20-minute walk to get somewhere. Whereas, you'd see someone on your block or in your neighbourhood, there'd always be something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good point you bring up. Not Systembolaget, no. It's been quite a popular one.
I mean, to be honest, I don't. It used to bother me before, but maybe I've been here too long that it doesn't bother me.
I've only been to Systembolaget 5 times. I don't go very often. I'd rather go to a pub and be social with people rather than have it in my house.
True.
It's expensive.
Yeah, that's the other thing is. But I think I've also changed a bit as a person to be a bit more planned. I think that's a result of being here for so long. Because Systembolaget and being allowed to buy alcohol only at certain times is a problem only if you don't plan in advance.
Yeah. Because I'm quite a spontaneous person. I don't really do planning.
Yeah.
Maybe as I get older I will do, but I like to be quite reactive to things.
Yeah.
So it can get quite frustrating. Especially when I have to walk like 15 minutes to go to Systembolaget.
That's another thing, accessibility and...
the public transport here is really good if you live on a good link.
Exactly.
It's like off the public coin. It's why neighbourhoods are worth more for rent and things, I guess. But
yeah.
It's interesting. Anything more for being here, or are we can wrap it up?
No, but I guess the only other thing about Sweden is that just on what you were saying is if you live in the city, then public transport's great. Connections are good, frequency is good. But as soon as you actually really want to explore the country or actually go out and see a bit more, I think you really, really need a car. Which, to be honest, I can kind of accept. It's not as car dependent as like the US or UK.
Because I haven't got a car here, but we're lucky in that we can borrow them from work.
Yeah.
So my parents are coming this weekend, my brother. So I'm gonna get a car from the office and use that to go to the airport to pick them up.
Yeah,
the airport's got bad transport links. There's a bus, but that's it.
Yeah.
Where like usually there's trains, and it's the second biggest city, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
You have like 3 or 4 ways of getting there, like Heathrow and Gatwick. You can get buses, trains, the tube even.
Yeah.
It's quite frustrating. But on that bombshell, we'll end that section. Hello, welcome to section 3 of the podcast, which is kind of a recap of your time here. I know you're still living in Sweden, but let's just like put a pin in your life so far of being here and kind of recap how it's been and what you would evaluate it so far, like a midpoint or baseline for yourself.
To be honest, I didn't think back then that I would live here for this long, and I still don't know how long I'm going to live here. I like my job. I like the place. I have good friends, and life is good. So I don't see a reason why I wouldn't be here until one of those things changes. Would be the first thing, I think. And as a country as well, like for me as a person, I think I adjust well to this kind of culture. I don't know why or how, but I just think it's in line with kind of my mentality and the way I think. If I could, and you start building this kind of ideal country to live in, with all the best parts from all the places you've been.
Does that exist though?
It doesn't, that's the problem. So I don't know, but
always yearning for something. Right?
I think Sweden comes pretty close, to be honest. It's just the weather and the food are the two things I think would...
A lot of home cooking to counteract the food, or is it more the food culture?
It's the food culture. It's just like going out to eat street food. And
I guess because it's so cold, though. The weather and the street food might go hand in hand.
Could be, yeah.
Over global warming, it improves.
I wouldn't hope for that.
No, of course not. But every cloud, right?
Yeah.
So what's been your obviously your reflection, you just said is you really like it here and you don't see yourself leaving anytime soon. Like me, you've got a relationship which was not in the country you moved into. What was that like when you first moved? You were together when you first moved, right? So
Yeah, ish. Yeah, no, well, we were, but it was hard. It was not easy. It was a tough time. But then she moved closer, and that made things easier. But with visa restrictions, everything gets super complicated, and you can't really just move to each other that easily because you need to have a job lined up and a visa lined up before you can actually make that happen. No, I mean it sucked.
that's something I'm noticing now, even from the UK, because when my girlfriend comes over, she has to get stamped, and she's only here for 3 months every 6. I know it's not as bad as countries which require visas to travel to, but it's something to think about. And yeah, if she wanted to move, it would require a visa, or we'd have to get like a samba relationship or something. You have to do something formal to have that opportunity.
Yeah, and it's not that easy to get jobs in Sweden applying from outside. It's quite hard because the companies, I think, need to prove that they couldn't find that talent already within Sweden.
And then within the EU as a second?
Yeah, so it's like first preference is Swedish national, then European passport, and then all the rest of us, basically. But it's just the way it is, and it makes life a bit annoying. But it's getting better, I think. More and more companies kind of recognize that people from different countries bring different thinking, and it's.
Do you think that's one thing that's come from COVID, where hybrid working has become this thing where if there's talent somewhere else, we don't need them to be where we are. We can cast the net far further afield in order to find the perfect person for the job.
Do you mean in the sense that they don't look for bringing people over anymore, or are you saying that?
Well, not initially. No, maybe they'll go for remote, and then that'll be a way in because they have a job, and then they can just transfer within the company.
Could be.
Like I did. I had a job in the UK, not working for Sweden, but I was able to move across because I'd already established myself within the company.
Mm-hmm. Could be. I mean, yeah, everybody's working from home these days, but I think it really depends on the company, because I know there are some companies that are making people come to work now, and they want people to be there face to face. But it was what I was trying to say was more on a general comment that I think companies are appreciating getting into that international talent adds different perspectives and different ways of achieving the same thing or similar things. You don't know what you don't know, so it's.
I guess a diverse workforce gives you so many perspectives and different empathy.
Yeah, exactly.
In order to understand the problem from different situations.
Yeah.
So trying to design a car for someone who's not in your situation is very difficult because you don't know the problems they have. Like for me, I'm quite tall. If I were designing a car for a 50% female, I would not appreciate the problems they have with looking over the steering wheel or something.
Yeah.
And vice versa. They wouldn't worry about headroom.
No, exactly.
So getting that broad spectrum of talent, be that in background or whatever, is quite useful.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And so more about Sweden now and Gothenburg in particular. What's your favourite part of the city? What would you recommend people to go visit if they were coming to live or stay? Don't say the forests or the archipelagos. They are pretty cool.
Yeah, the thing I like the most about Gothenburg is that nature is so close. I really like nature and being out, whether it's, I don't know, in the archipelago. Basically, I like going where there's not that many people.
Which is you noticed when you first moved here of not seeing many people.
No.
Have you become used to that now?
So that's the thing. Like, I don't mind people in city areas because that's what the shock was.
You expect, right?
Yeah, that's where I would expect them. But then when you go outside to get away from it all, I think Sweden's an amazing place for that. It's like 5-minute drive this way, that way, and you're already kind of in a mountain or not a mountain, but like a hill or a forest.
I find that with the trams as well. I can go the bus from the bus stop, which is like 5 minutes away, half an hour, and in Skotas, the park. Then go for a run there, or I can play frisbee golf, or I can go to. I'm going to Slottsdam, the big lake thing, just south of Skotas. Stora Damskott.
Okay.
Yeah. The lake.
Okay.
Just south and east of the city. Yeah. And then you've got, I don't know, Stockholm and like
that's really
35 minutes away by tram. And then you get a ferry and you've got all of the islands to the south, west. Yeah, it's quite cool. And then Slottsskogen.
Slottsskogen is nice.
Big forest. Just
Gothenburg is nice.
That's what I was trying to say.
Gothenburg. Hisingsparken is also very nice. Got lost there a couple of times.
Is that all north, right?
Yeah.
Near where you live. Yeah. So that's on Hisingen.
Yes.
You can Google that. Awesome. And then, so that's obviously the city where you like. If you could go back in time, and we can't, but if you could tell yourself when you first moved a piece of advice or one thing you'd change or one thing you would do differently, what would it be? It can be nothing. You could do it all again the same way you did it.
Not much, really.
It was all perfect, right?
It wasn't perfect, but I try not to think about things like that because, I'm here because of all the choices and things that happened along the way, and I can't really change it.
You are you because of your mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think of it that way, so there isn't much I would change as such.
Well, not you then. If someone was coming over to do what you did, but it's not you, would you recommend something to them which you wish you knew before you moved?
I try to make these clean checklists for everyone that's moving to Sweden, so that
I mean, you've got 2 already. And press 3.
Exactly. So I
start saying service on the side.
No, but I think actually think about where you're moving from a quality of life perspective would be the big thing. Like, don't move to a country just for the sake of moving to a country, but also think about like a long winter is something you would like and could handle.
I mean, it was hard for me, and the UK is not exactly known for its long winters or long daytime in the winter. It's still quite dark, but it's that bit darker and a lot colder.
Yeah,
it's a big shock.
Also, assuming you're going to be moving for work or would like to work at some point, doing a bit of research about what kind of companies exist and what the job market generally looks like in advance, I think will really help. If you don't plan on leaving immediately, I don't want to say if you plan on settling because you never know, it just happens. It would be good, I think, to just be aware of the kind of industries and
the job climate.
Exactly. It's like, so again, using automotive as an example, there's like 2 companies or 3 companies in Sweden, and that's it. Whereas like the UK, for example, is a much better.
Yeah, but they're all in one place though, aren't they?
They are, but then you have a lot of options.
Yeah, and suppliers and
exactly.
It's quite expensive.
Germany as well. There's a lot of options for automotive, and it's things like that. I wish I had known before, I guess, in a way. A better understanding of the opportunities and just the job market and what kind of, as you said, the climate.
That's good. So thank you for coming on to the podcast and, sharing your story or your life, your journey so far, being in Sweden, comparing it to your home. It's been really interesting speaking to you. I know about your background after conversations, lots of questions for help. But still obviously learning more and more and understanding a bit about university. That was really quite interesting for me. As I came just for work. I'm quite jealous because I would have liked to have that experience where I move in with those people in the same situation and not have to go to work every day. You have the option of your days a bit more yourself. Thank you. And I hope you enjoyed it. Do you have any reflections on your first podcast appearance? Or?
No, it was fun. Thanks for having me. I've never done this before, so I didn't ramble on for too long, but
I just hope it's enjoyable or useful. I think the whole purpose of this is to give some information to whoever watches, listens, even if they're from India or the UK or anywhere in the world. Hopefully there's something in there, or it's entertaining at least, and someone can laugh at chit chat and rambling on about random things. But
cool, it was fun. Thanks for having me.
No worries. And if you liked it, if you found something interesting or you have any more questions, please let us know. Get in touch on social media or in the comment section or however you wish to do it. I think I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. Please just feel free to get in touch and hopefully we can address some concerns in the future doing FAQs. ask Addy some questions more. He's the encyclopedia of moving to Sweden, as what others is known, which will hopefully, transcend into other countries. But yeah, thank you, and hopefully you can share this with your friends or one day move abroad. It'd be great. And we'll see you next time. Bye.